The governing bodies of Fianna Fáil and the PDs consider the programme for government. An easy victory for William Hague. Eurosceptics put their stamp on the Tory leadership. The RUC have rerouted 2 Orange Order parades, Balahi and the Lower Ormo. And continuing economic boom, 25% growth over the last 3 years. Good evening and welcome. The programme for government negotiated between Fianna Fáil and the Progressive Democrats has this evening been before both parties' governing bodies for endorsement. Earlier it was approved by the Fianna Fáil Parliamentary Party. The programme covers many of the main policy proposals put forward by the two parties during the general election. It specifically targets Northern Ireland, taxation, crime and drugs and unemployment.
Though the PD's Dáil numbers were halved in the election, a larger-than-average party faithful gathered for tonight's General Council meeting to discuss the programme for government. Rank-and-file members insisted that this was no rubber-stamping exercise.
It's up to the National Council to review what the negotiators have looked at and to decide whether the party will go into government or not. That is the democratic right of the party.
Obviously, it's very difficult to comment on a document that I haven't seen. But yes, I would expect quite a lengthy debate, yes.
The Fianna Fáil National Executive meeting began earlier this evening, with endorsement very much in the cards after the programme was approved by the Parliamentary Party earlier today. Though senior frontbenchers were loath to give anything away, the party's new TDs were clearly delighted with the programme.
Well, I'm particularly impressed that so many of our policy documents seem to be forming the integral part of the programme for government. We had 34 policies issued before the election, and they are the core now of this.
It's an amalgam of the manifestos of the PDs and Fianna Fáil.
Well, we got a very thorough rundown on the programme as it has been agreed so far with the negotiators on both sides.
There's 7 key areas. They mentioned taxation, which is very important. I was very pleased with the commitment to education, especially being a deputy in County Laois, and there's an emphasis on primary education. We don't have any third level education in Laois Offaly, so I'm keen that the education facilities in our area will be further developed. Good document on social inclusion and reform of local government and planning throughout the country. So there's a lot of very, very good things.
The whole flavour of the discussion this morning was very much the partnership approach, which we in Fianna Fáil are very keen to pursue in our programme for government with the PDs.
And shortly before 9 o'clock this evening, the National Executive meeting ended, having given a full endorsement to the programme for government.
And our political correspondent Una Claffey joins us now from Leinster House. Well, Una, we've just heard that Fianna Fáil has given its endorsement. Have you heard anything of how that meeting went?
Yes, the meeting ended, as Anne-Marie said, they're just coming up to 9 o'clock, Anne, and I gather the feeling, as had happened earlier today at the Parliamentary Party meeting, was very, very positive. Just as had happened earlier today, Noel Dempsey and Dermot Ahern, the two negotiators, took the meeting through the document. This time, however, the National Executive had it in its possession, and I gather it was unanimously approved.
And moving now to the Progressive Democrat meeting, do we have any word on how it's progressing, or is it likely to be more complex?
Well, I understand that the presentation again of the detail of the document, this time by Bobby Malloy and Liz O'Donnell, is still taking place there. Their meeting, of course, started later than the Fianna Fáil one. It is slightly more complex in that clearly for the Progressive Democrats there's a sense of real disappointment and in some ways real anger at how badly they did in the election, and they're very anxious, A, not to be seen to be taken for granted, and B, that their party will maintain some form of separate identity while they're in government, and that will indeed be strengthened in terms of fighting the next election. So it's possible that there may be a slightly more critical approach there, but I have heard from within the meeting that there is a very positive attitude, that a number of issues have been very positively received, indeed with rounds of applause, and amongst those issues apparently are a commitment not to go ahead with the regional education boards, which had been proposed by the outgoing government, and the commitments to the whole primary school area, and also harking back to when Mary Harney was a junior minister in environment. I gather there's a commitment to extend the ban on smoky fuels outside the Dublin area, and that's been very well received. So it'll be later in the evening before we have a final result from there.
So there's been a lot of talk about this document, Una. When are we likely to see it?
Well, it's going to be released to the media later this evening, so at midnight we'll have a full report of it on RTE Radio News. But I have to say that so far, from what we know, there are no particularly large surprises in it.
Una, thank you for that. The Northern Secretary has announced